Hey guys, we are looking at suspensions and resolutions today, seconds and thirds, dissonances and consonances. Fascinating stuff. It really is. If you can take music theory and make application to it when you're playing, it makes the music come alive, you understand what you're doing, and it makes sense, and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. So that's the way I'm teaching you theory as we learn how to sight read, okay? We're going to use both things there. Alright? So, let's look at a second and a third. This is what they sound like. It's very pretty, right? It's very expressive. We need to learn two terms here. We need to learn dissonance and consonance. Okay? A dissonant interval is one that is not at rest. It's not at peace. It has tension in it, and it needs to be resolved, or at least it feels like it does. Okay, you hear that? There's a dissonant interval, an interval of a second. A second just means one note to the very next one, a consecutive letter, E to F, F to G, G to A. When you play them at the same time, they are dissonant. They are not at rest. They need some type of resolution. Okay, they sound like they're in conflict with one another. Alright? So that's dissonance here. A consonant interval, one that has consonants, is a third. When you have a letter and you skip a letter, go to the next one, from E to G, for example, or F to A, or G to B, that is a consonant interval. Chords are made out of thirds, or consonant intervals. They sound at rest and at peace. Okay? So you understand the difference between dissonance and consonance. Now there are other intervals that are dissonant and consonant. Here's another one, a seventh. Is that dissonant or consonant? Does that sound at rest, or does it sound in conflict? It is a dissonant interval, okay? Another example of a consonant interval is a sixth. Okay, it is at peace. Alright, so now we understand dissonance and consonance. Alright, well, when we go from an interval of a second to the interval of a third, we have something called a suspension and resolution. Alright, if I start with this first one up here, F to G, and I resolve it to a third, that's called suspension resolution. The first one is the suspension, because the F is suspended, it's higher, and it resolves down to E. And we go from dissonance to consonance. We go from suspension to resolution. The terms here are all just different ways to describe what's happening here. Okay, suspension to resolution. Second to a third is dissonance to consonance, suspension to resolution. You always have one note that stays the same, and the other one that's right next to it, underneath it, is going to resolve down. That's what you have. That's what we're looking at here, okay? Now, if you think you're getting a lot of information right here in this lesson, you'll get way, way, way more help and information and help on your sight reading if you go to my website at webpianoteacher.com. I'm Sean Cheek. I have tons and tons of lessons on there. Lots of sight reading videos that I'm putting up more and more every day to help you guys with your sight reading. We just have to do the right things and retrain our brains to look at music in groups instead of seeing one note at a time. Instead of using all cows eat grass and little jingles to do our notes, we actually learn how to read. How about that? All right, and this is my own little, well, it's not little, but my own pedagogy study here that we're doing to learn how to do this. So we're looking at seconds and thirds here. All right, so let's look at the first one. We're doing treble clef. We have F and G together, and we're resolving that to E and G. Now remember, I said there's a note that's going to stay the same. The G stays the same, and the F moves to the E. That's suspension resolution. It's very expressive. It's very beautiful. All right, let's do another one here. We see a second, and you want to see these in groups. That's why I have a slur. So see, this is a group, this is a group, this is a group. Alright, as soon as I see that, my eye sees a second, because only a second is going to be catty-cornered like that. So I know what to expect when I see that. I know I'm going to go to a B, and the other note is a C. Now we need to know B and C individually without a reference point, just to reflex action, to know what those notes are, but we also want to see it as a second. Okay? And we also want to think, well, that's probably going to resolve. Okay? Because Sean told us whenever we have a second, the top note's probably going to stay the same and the bottom one's going to resolve down to the left. And that happens. Okay? Now this is just an exercise, but I challenge you to get out your music that you've been playing, maybe that's too hard for you, and look and see if you ever see a second resolving to a third. I bet you do. I bet you won't look at that the same way anymore now that you see that. That tends to be what happens with seconds and thirds. Now let's look at this one. We have D and E, and we're resolving that. The top note stays the same, and we resolve the D down to C. Okay? Alright, we have a note that stays the same, and the bottom one resolves down. Now, we don't have time in this little short video to go through all the things that I show you on the website, but if you want to try a backing track here, I provide those on all the exercises on the site that we do. Why don't you try playing this line after you've practiced a little bit? I'm going to play a backing track with you and give you a taste of what I do on the site over and over again. You're going to play this, and I'm going to play with you, okay? So we're going to go pretty slow. 1 and 2 and about like that. All right, I'm going to play with you. Make sure when you're sight reading too that you're not looking down at your hand a lot. Your main focus should be up here, and then occasionally flash your eyes down to see what you're doing, or if you need to get a reference to see where you are, that's fine. What you don't want to do is have your focus down here and then occasionally look up to see what the next thing is and then memorize it, okay? You're going to stay slow for the rest of your life if that's your habit, if that's what you do. If you're practicing a flawed technique, it will never get better no matter how much time you spend on it, okay? It's like Shaquille O'Neal with free throws. Practiced hours and hours and hours every day, weeks on end, months on end, but he was, according to Phil Jackson, was practicing a flawed technique. So he never got better at it. I don't know if he is now. I haven't seen him in a long time, but let's go ahead and practice our backing track here, okay? I'm going to count you off. Ready, and play. And 1. A C chord at the end there, but that's just a taste to show you what we do on the site. We add backing tracks and we give you all kind of help. Now you know that this is not a song, this is not something that is memorable on purpose, because I don't want you to memorize it, because as soon as your ear kicks in and you start memorizing, boop, sight reading goes out the window, you're not reading anymore. We don't want that. We want to read. So we want to play something that is sort of at random, but the backing tracks kind of make it more interesting to play with, so it still sounds, beautiful and you enjoy playing it, but you have to read the notes. That's what sight reading is. Developing it is seeing new things in front of your eyes all the time, but you have to have the right stuff in front of your eyes, and that's where you get my instruction here. I'm taking you step by step, building from a foundation of the very basics, and then going up and up as we involve music theory and all sorts of good stuff with it. This line we don't have time to do on this lesson, but here we're looking at melodic seconds and thirds, resolving, okay? Okay, so if you start learning to see those patterns of seconds and thirds, suspension and resolutions in your playing, that will really help you to take, shortcut. It really makes the music come alive to you and you understand what's happening. Alright, so there's a bit for you, and I hope you enjoy it.